going on, y'all? True Techno Gamer here. Chilling down in the basement, man. Of course, got a home theater question that I want to ask you guys. I'm looking for some communication and some feedback from you guys. So if you follow my channel and you've seen me kind of talk about my home theater journey and the journey to Endgame, as I call it, I did call out a few areas that were not Endgame. And one of the areas potentially was, in fact, my subwoofers, right? So I have two SVS SB16 Ultra subwoofers, right? That is SVS's previous flagship subwoofer. I think they initially came out somewhere around 2015-ish. And, they were, pretty good. Now, I'm not the biggest bass head by any stretch. I definitely want to get some good tactile feedback, especially with movies. I have a pretty big basement, pretty big room down here, you guys know, but they still rattle and bang, and kind of can shake the house, these things. I almost never really get a chance to really crank them, really turn them up. I have them at -20 on the subs. And I forget exactly what I have on the processor, but they're nowhere near maxed out. So even without having them maxed out, oftentimes if I really do play something loud, it still can be disruptive. I do have kids and wife and family. I gotta be mindful of that. So what I'm saying is they are adequate enough for my purposes now, is how I look at it, right? Now, you guys may, of course, know that SVS has recently in 2024, towards the end of 2024, finally released a follow-up. And I say finally because, again, these subs have been rocking as their flagship for about 9 years, at least. Maybe 10, maybe 2014, but definitely around 2015. So 9 to 10 year time, that was it. And I think it's pretty telling in terms of the overall quality and performance of these subs that it took them that long for a follow-up, right? In general, I mean, previously, before that, the SB13 Ultra, I think, was the previous flagship before that. I mean, it did not take 9, 10 years for them to push follow-up subs out there, for sure, right? And what they've done with the SB17 and PB17, I believe, is like they call it the 17R Evolution, kind of like the Revolution, right? That's their new flagship series. And initially, when I saw that, I was like, okay. I mean, it's interesting, but it didn't really seem like a huge jump up coming from these, right? It was more of an evolution. And I didn't expect to really be able to gain a whole lot more performance by going to those. The question for you guys is, will I get a meaningful improvement if I were to upgrade from the SB16s to the SB17s? I actually have talked to SVS, talked to Gary, talked to Ed. I see them at various events and shows that I go to, and I asked them, like, look, honestly, coming from two SB16 Ultras, would there be a substantial jump going to the SB17? Now, of course, Ed was like, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but absolutely, right? I mean, if it were me and I could do them, you're going to get much more performance. And I explained to him, like, I feel like I'm getting enough output from the SB16s. They're not the absolute top pinnacle world class, in terms of output, but they're good enough for my use case, they're good enough for my room. And he's like, it's not just about the output, right? It's about the quality, the control, the actual sound quality of the bass, the extension, everything is improved. The DSP engine is way better. You can get it dialed in better. You get much better response. Everything is improved, right? And, that kind of started getting me thinking. And since then, there's been some reviews that's come out and they're all praising it like, these are, in fact, Endgame level subs, right? And when I pay more attention to it, okay, and looking at the comparison with these new SB17 versus the 16s, one key thing sticks out. Yes, spec-wise, it's going to go a little bit deeper and everything, but one key thing stood out. The weakness of these subs, if there was one, and I can attest to this, is that the driver in this thing, the 16-inch driver, it's fine, right? I mean, it's pretty good, pretty solid. But they were amplifier limited for sure, right? And I can attest to that, having played them when I, a few times when I did get a chance to really push them. I can hear their limits. You can hit the limits, and really what you're hearing is the amplifier running out of steam, right? And then the control takes over and it starts to limit things and throttle things, and the distortion, the THD goes up, and that kind of stuff starts happening, right? And I mean, again, for me and my purposes, it's pretty loud. It's pretty, for that to happen, but it can happen, right? Compared to some of the other mega subs out there from Perlison and JTR and stuff like that, they had their limits. They have their limits. And the one thing that SVS did with the SP17 Ultra is massively overhaul that amplifier and massively improve the overall output you can get from the amplifier, right? So these subs were rated at 1500 watts RMS, which at the time was pretty solid. Again, wasn't absolute top world class, but was pretty solid. And now we live in a world where Perlison comes up with their subs, the D15 and D215, and they're pushing 2000 watts RMS and 3000 watts RMS in their dual driver one. JL Audio has always had, that's one of the things, they have a smaller driver, that 13-inch, but they have a massive amplifier on that thing, pushing well over 2000 watts, right? And that's the difference there, right? And even the GTR, right? The Captivator, that RS1, huge 18-inch driver, and they're pushing 2500 watts, right, for that RMS. So 1500 watts, if you want to really play with the big boys, wasn't going to cut it. And so what the SVS do now, they're touting 2800 watts for that SP17 compared to 1500 watts for this thing. That's almost double the power, right? Double the RMS power. And again, it's not just that, right? It's a slightly larger driver that's been redesigned, but it's also how they implemented that amplifier. You can throw, an amplifier that technically has the capacitance to push, several thousand watts, right? Several kilowatts. The way that they've done it though, which is they wanted to make sure that subwoofer is accessible to any and everybody, right? You don't need a special circuit to get the massive power, okay? It'll work optimally on any circuit. Plug it into the wall. You don't need a crazy power conditioner or filtering. It has built-in filtering. It does all of that for you. So you just plug it into the wall and you're going to get 2800 watts, controlled, smart, intelligent DSP, and it's just a really smart, accessible amplifier. SVS, is still reasonably priced. It's actually barely more expensive than these things, considering everything that they overhauled, right? $2,500, I believe, for the SB and $33,000 for the PB. That's a few $100s more than their predecessor, right? So still reasonably priced, accessible power, and also form factor, right? So the size of the new sub is basically about the same as the size of these, and that was intentional. If SVS had wanted to say, hey, size is not a factor, yeah, they could have put an 8, because people say, why are they still limited to 17 inches? They could have put an 18, 20-inch driver in there and made a bigger cabinet, push more air, blah, blah, blah. But they're really cognizant of form factor, and I'm really cognizant of form factor in my space, and that's important, right? So those are all cool things, and I've heard the SB, actually I heard the PB17 a little bit, and I couldn't really get too deep into it to say one way or another how much better it is or not. It sounded great. It was shaking the space that I was in for sure, that kind of thing. I would want to do it in pairs, right? So I definitely would want to have at least two and kind of maintain that layout. I think, the DSP control and the room correction feature that's apparently still not even out, is delayed, but it's supposed to be coming soon. I think those kind of things will really help just me getting better dialed in bass in my room, right? It's not just about, the amplifier and the driver. I mean, it's going to be, in theory, I'm going to be able to push louder. It's going to be able to sustain that power better and longer. It's going to get deeper extension. That's all cool, but I really think that the control and the being able to get actual even based within my room is probably a bigger deal to me, right? So will I be able to do that with those subs, right? Will I be able to hear meaningful, more output, less distortion? Measurably, we know that I've seen it. The SP17 has much lower distortion than the SP16, but is it actually something you can hear, right? Is the question. Thinking about what other subs could I get? There's another part of the conversation. For me, my favorite brands for subs, honestly, and the subs that I think would play at that level the best would be the Pearl Listens. I really do like the Pearl Listen. I love their aesthetics, but they're just so damn expensive, right? That 215, that dual driver one is basically 10 grand or close 9 to 10 grand, right? The single one is still like 5 grand or 5,500, somewhere around there. So you're talking about over double the price for one of the SP17s, right? So I can get two for probably less than what I can get for one of the per listen subs, right? I love them though. I think they look great. They're like world class in terms of their distortion and the sound quality. They're not pushing like the utmost in output, which is fine for me, but the quality, distortion levels are world class. They're just so damn expensive. Similarly, the JL Audios. I gotta say, guys, I've heard JL Audio subs about 4 or 5 times, right, in different places in my life. Every single time I've heard those things, I have been like blown away. Like to the point where I'm just like, that can't be coming from that thing. Like, what is that? Like, it's just a level of just sub and bass immersion that I've never heard otherwise. Even from the Pearl Listen, even from my SVS, like, I just haven't heard that level. I don't know if it's the demo, like would that be replicated if I actually did have them in my house, right? It's one of those things. I don't know, but they have been killer every single time. But again, they're older now. Even the revised models are still several years old. The F113, it's a 13-inch driver, so it'll be a huge step down in size from this or even the SP17, right? But they sound great. Tons of amplifier power, tons of control. Again, also super expensive, right? One F113, 13-inch driver is again over 5 grand. I think it's 5,500, 5,600, something like that. And then they have these dual, like the Gotham and whatever. I mean, that gets into ridiculous, like 10 grand plus ballpark. So not very accessible, hard to justify that cost with a lower driver, smaller driver and stuff like that. Smaller form factor overall as well. It's a super dense sub, so it actually weighs more than the SVS subs that are bigger. But the actual cabinet is actually smaller, which again, it's like defies physics. Like that sound quality coming out those things, man, are crazy though. So kudos to JL Audio, but yeah, price is an issue there again. And then the other one, of course, will be JTR, right? So the JTR Captivators are kind of like a home theater enthusiast favorite. They got the RS1 and the RS2, which is a dual. And let's just be clear, the RS2, which is way too big. Again, form factor is a consideration. I love the size of the SP16. The two I have, they fit perfectly in the space. Anything bigger would start to be a problem, start to kind of look a little weird. Maybe a little bigger, but not like even the PB, 16, 17s would be too big. So the RS2s are out of the question. The RS1s, again, SVS, I believe, absolutely set their sights on the RS1. No coincidence, those things are pushing 24, 2,500 watts with their 18-inch driver. I think they're rated to go down to 16 hertz. And what are the specs of the SB17? 15 hertz. 2,800 watts, right? I mean, on paper, they could say we got them, right? We got them. We push beyond them. I don't think that's a coincidence, right? But again, the RS1 is going to be a little bit more expensive. Getting it online direct, I think it's $3,300 or something like that, a little bit over 3 grand. So 2,500 again for the SB17, right? So those are the other players I would look at that I know are really solid quality. 2 of them are just kind of outrageous in price and hard to justify for me. And then JTR is a little bit more, it's a little bit more plain looking aesthetically. It's not as nice. You put together the SVS customer service, the accessibility, because you basically can find SVS everywhere now. And the, customer support and the overall, like, user experience with the app and everything. It's a complete picture that, you can make an argument is still better than the JTR. Performance-wise, I've never heard the JTR, like, obviously in a house, but everything I've heard, it's like among the best things you can get, right, for subwoofers. Mostly home theater focused, right? So again, I'm also, remember, my space is a hybrid space, music and home theater. SPS, I think, does that balance well. They sound really good with music. They can pump, obviously, with home theater as well. So it's interesting. I mean, I think it comes down to, like, first, just compared to these, is it worth it? Is it worth just even thinking about it? Would I get a meaningful improvement? You guys can help let me know. And then looking at other players, are there other options that are really worthwhile considering over the SVS SB or PB17 Ultras? Most likely SB for me, right? Thinking about costs, again, it's hard to justify. I can get 2 of these for the price of 1 per listen, 1 JL audio. I can get 4 of these, not that I would in this space, but I can get 4 of these, 4 of those SP17s for the price of 2, right? So that has to play into it as well, right? So you let me know what you guys think, man. I'm not saying that this can happen. I'm just pondering it, right? I mean, even if I could, even if I wanted to, is it really worth it? That's an open question. So, True Techno Gamer, that's all for now. Look forward to seeing you guys in the comments. Till next one. Now, signing off.